Welcome to another edition of the Upstate Orange Podcast, the show made by Syracuse fans for Syracuse fans. It is Thursday, January 31st, 2013, and we're coming at you live from the luxurious FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. I'm Jim Sinacropi, and I'm joined in studio by my co-host Matt Verkey, and via telephone in Cincinnati, Brad Connor. Welcome, fellas.
Hey, Jim. How we doing?
Good evening, boys.
We'd also like to welcome visitors from the best Syracuse blog on the web, noonsmagician.com, who might be checking us out for the first time. A lot to talk about tonight, guys, after Syracuse drops their second game of the season last Saturday in Philadelphia at the hands of the Villanova Wildcats. We're going to talk about Jim Boeheim's late game slowdown strategy. We're going to talk about the quickly diminishing depth of the Syracuse bench after Coleman goes out with a knee injury. Why Rakeem Christmas isn't more dominant, why Trevor Cooney can't hit the rim on a wide-open three-point attempt. We'll preview quickly Pittsburgh and Notre Dame. We'll take a quick look at all the action around the country. And, of course, great Orange trivia on tap during our Connor's Corner segment. The Upstate Hoops podcast is brought to you by Madej Miras and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. If you've been injured and deserve compensation, call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. And also by Generations Bank, generations of service for over 140 years. Visit them online at mygenbank.com and check out their new mobile banking app. And Newark Pilots Baseball. Season ticket packages now available for the 2013 season at Colburn Park. Visit newarkpilots.com for more information. Well, I don't know if I was the only one that was a little shocked on Saturday to see the Orange go down to Villanova with an 11 a.m. tip time and come out of there with a loss. But immediately after that loss, the interwebs exploded with criticism and scrutiny of Jim Boeheim's late game strategy. I love it. Verk, I don't think you have too big a problem with it. I don't think Brad likes it too much, though. So, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on the end of the game there, Brad, on Saturday.
I mean, I'm still disgusted 5 days later. It was such a great second half. They played a bad first half. They came back, took control, took the lead. Take the air out of the ball, you change the entire dynamic of the game. And the momentum was just completely gone. It just vanished, and you saw the end result. We've seen it time after time. A lot of times it doesn't come back to burn them, and they, get bailed out somehow in the end. This time it didn't happen. I don't like it just because it changes the dynamic of the game. And on this team especially, they struggle enough to get anything in half-court offense. You give them 10 seconds to get a shot off, they got to get lucky to score in a lot of cases. And that's what happened at the end of that game. I'm still disgusted.
How about you, Burke?
I didn't mind the strategy so much. I didn't think they executed it very well. I thought, you're up 6 with, 3 minutes to go or so. Jeremy Grant's fouled out. Apparently Coleman's on the bench. We didn't know at the time, but he might not have even been able to play. Sutherland suspended. And, there's only going to be a few more possessions if you take, if you use up the shot clock. I thought they should have attacked the basket a little bit earlier. A couple times I was watching the game going, go, what do you go. And, they started with 10 seconds to go. And that's just, it's putting too much pressure on, a quick pick and roll to get open. And if it's not there, then you're screwed. Carter Williams didn't play great down the stretch as he had the last couple games, and I thought, Trisha was really rolling. I thought maybe put the ball in Brandon's hands at the end when you are running that pick and roll with, 10, 12 seconds to go. My only complaint is start your offense. You want to hold it fine, run it down to 20, 15 seconds, then do something. And, let Brandon touch the ball. He was
my big beef.
He was having a great game. He's a better finisher than Michael Carter-Williams, obviously. He's stronger.
Syracuse's last 5 points.
Yeah, he's stronger. Neither one of them have been great clutch foul shooters this year. But, the strategy got you where you wanted to be. Michael Carter-Williams makes one free throw, and they win the game. Did they lose some momentum maybe, stuff like that? But if they come down and jack up a three with 25 seconds in the shot clock, I think you got a big argument there also. It's a tough call, and I know people have got on Boeheim a lot for it over the years. But in that situation on Saturday, I didn't mind the strategy so much. I just thought maybe the execution wasn't great, and maybe once it didn't work the first couple times with Carter Williams, let Trish get in the game and try something a little different.
Well, I watched the last 5 minutes of that game and kind of documented the possessions, and I'll get to that in a second. There's just one thing that I want to kind of make clear regarding this is that there is no strategy, no foolproof strategy that you can employ when you're up 6-0 with 3 minutes to go in a college basketball game that's going to result in 100% win percentage. That's just against the nature of college basketball, especially on the road in a league game. So I look at it as that these Boeheim bashers, or the strategy bashers, I guess, they don't have much to say the last 14 times that Boeheim employed this strategy with a late game lead and came away with a win. But that one loss, everybody seems to remember. And, again, like you said, Vert, you had Keita, Grant out with fouls. You had Christmas with 4 fouls, Sutherland ineligible, Coleman hampered with an injury. Not that you'd want him in there anyways, as he's only played 3 minutes.
Right.
And so Boeheim tries to shorten the game. Less possessions, less chance of Christmas picking up his 5th foul, less time that the guys that he had on the court had to, spend on the court.
And at the time, I don't know if my other complaint was I didn't know if Coleman was available or not, but when Carter Williams was on the free throw line and it was a 3-point game, I would have subbed Coleman in if he was able to play for rebounding and a bigger defender on the back line instead of having 3 guards and at the time and having Cooney having to play down low or Trish down low. But I would have looked to make a defensive substitution at that time.
Right.
And I agree with Boeheim. A lot of people say you foul, but with 14 seconds to go and the way Syracuse has been shooting free throws, you could end up losing the game if you foul. They get the ball and you foul with 10 seconds to go. They make 2 foul shots. Then Syracuse goes to the line up 1. They miss.
Right.
Gives the ball back to Villanova with 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds to go, and all they need is a 2-pointer to win the game. Obviously on the rebound maybe you want to foul, but that's
that all happened quick.
That's a tough thing to happen.
Well, let me take you quickly through the end of this game here because I kind of documented each possession. And the important thing I want you to realize is when Boeheim went to that slowdown, which was it was about the 3-minute and 15-second mark. Villanova only had 3 more possessions, which 3 minutes is a long time in a basketball game to only have 3 possessions. So if you're up, and at that point, Villanova had just cut the lead with a couple of Yaru free throws to 4 points. So you're up 4, 3 minutes, 15 seconds. That's when Boeheim started slowing it down. Now, if I'm a coach and somebody says to me, you're going to be up 4 points and you're going to have 4 possessions, and Villanova, your opponent's going to have 3 possessions for the rest of this game, would you take that scenario and think you're going to come out of there with a win? So just by that, kind of rationale alone, I think it's the right thing to do every time, let alone this particular game when Syracuse had 2 guys out with foul trouble and Raheem Christmas with 4. So what actually happened was Yaru makes those 2 free throws, which, by the way, Keita fouled out, on that foul that sent Yaru to the free throw line. So the next possession, the next possession, they still didn't slow it down yet. Fair hit a baseline jumper at 3 minutes, 38 seconds. Villanova got it back, turned it over. Cuse took possession with 3:15 on the clock, and Carter Williams pulls it out and starts the slowdown strategy. And then, with about 10 seconds left, 11 seconds left on the shot clock, Michael Carter Williams comes off a high screen from Coleman, slips and falls, and Nova fast break the other way leads to a questionable goaltending call on C.J. Fair, which looked like a clean block, which, there's 2 points for Villanova. Then at 2:45, Syracuse gets the ball back. Michael Carter Williams waits till 12 seconds on the shot clock, starts his drive, looks for Trish, who's well guarded. Not that anybody ran anything to get him open, but he did look to Trish. He was guarded. Finds Fair for a long 2-point jumper, not a good shot. Coleman knocks it out of bounds off Nova, so Syracuse gets it back at 2:08. So then at 2:08, Michael Carter-Williams goes off a pick and roll from Coleman at the 10-second mark on the shot clock, hits Coleman wide open off the hands and out of bounds, Villanova ball. So Yaru fouls by Coleman at 1 minute, 6 seconds left, misses the first, makes the second, 3-point game. Minute 6, Michaal Carter-Williams slows it down with about 16 on the shot clock. He starts to get into it. Passes to Raheem Christmas, goes out of bounds off Villanova. So with 44 seconds left and the shot clock not reset, the inbound goes to Michaal Carter-Williams, who has a wide open runner in the lane, kind of rims in and out. No good. I thought it was a good shot. 31 seconds left. Nova takes over down 3, misses a 3-point attempt. Syracuse ball out of bounds. So with 19 seconds, Syracuse up 3. They foul Carter-Williams on the inbounds. He goes to the free throw line, misses the front end. And, you know, you got your point guard. He's only a sophomore, but questionably your team leader on the free throw line, up 3, end of the game, chance to ice it, and he misses it. So Nova calls a timeout. Boeheim decides not to foul. I agree, Verk. Too much time to foul there. Bell misses a 3. They get the rebound out to Archie Diacomo. Michaal Carter-Williams is right there. He actually steps behind him and gives him doesn't contest the shot at all. And it goes in. You know, what are you going to do? And so they lost. I don't think it's because of the strategy, though, Brad. You know, what do you say to that, Brad? That I'm saying that 3 possessions in over 3 minutes of gameplay for Villanova to make up a 4-point deficit. I really can't see how anybody can dispute that strategy by Boeheim. But I think you're gonna.
Second shot clock, ordinarily you're going to have a lot more than 3 possessions. So I think it was unusual that it was only 3 possessions because there were turnovers and shot clocks reset, and so I think on average in 3 minutes you're going to have 4, 5, maybe even 6 possessions.
If you're not running a slowdown,
shot clock.
If you're not milking the clock, I would say.
Well, if you are milking the clock, you're still taking only 35 off, right? In 3 minutes.
Right, but the other team has the ball, so technically, if you're making them go semi deep into the shot clock, that's almost a minute per 2 possessions, almost.
Right, and so if you got 3 minutes, that's 6 possessions.
3 each.
3 each, but Villanova's not milking it for 35.
No, but they're not getting a shot in the first 5 seconds either. But
what I'm saying is they're going to have 4 or 5 possessions. The fact they only had 3 was, I thought, unusual. Now, what you do is, when and you, Verk, you talked about it too. When Syracuse tries to initiate at 10 seconds, they're relying on a pick and roll, and if that's not there, they have to throw something up. It's the fact that they weren't in the flow. You're not in the flow when you're standing outside at the high post for 20 seconds. You're just not, and you can't get any offense going. And so you're going to get something bad. Now, I give Carter-Williams credit to get that runner off. It was a decent look. But that's all Carter-Williams wanted to do. He wanted to be the man. He was going to wait until 10 seconds and do something on his own. You got 4 guys standing around.
Right, and I think
that's not a successful offense. You've committed to probably scoring 1 out of your 3 possessions if you approach it that way.
But I think that between Carter-Williams and Trish, we got 2 guards that can go off that high pick and roll and get to the basket and either
non-entity with Carter-Williams with the ball in his hand. I mean,
well, he slipped and fell once.
Out of the basketball game.
He slipped and fell once. Another time, pass goes off Coleman's hands, misses a runner in the lane, misses a free throw. Like I said, the only thing I didn't like was I would have liked to seen Trish with the ball, when they started attacking at about 10, 12 seconds on the shot clock, because he had just hit a deep 3 and then another shot in the lane to put Syracuse up at 6 at the 4-minute mark. And then other than that, it was Fair's baseline jumper. Those were the only points in the last 4 minutes.
They had a team that wasn't as strong defensively once Keita went out and once Grant went out. You've got Coleman in there who's barely played. You got Cooney in and out of that game. To defend, to ask those guys to defend and make a stop, to me that was asking a lot at that time. I think you got to attack and you've got to win that game offensively. You can't count on winning it defensively with the lineup they had out there.
Well, yeah, I would argue that maybe that's not their best chance to score by slowing it down, but I still think that a lot of times when Syracuse runs their offense, it comes down to Trish or Carter Williams, taking it themselves into the lane and making something happen from there. And I get your point that you're saying if they do that earlier and it's not there, they don't have to force something. They can maybe kick it out and try again. But that is Syracuse's offense a lot of times.
15 seconds, that's fine. Don't milk it for 25 seconds, and then you've got 10 seconds to do what exactly? I mean, that's the issue I had.
Or
milk 10 seconds, milk 15 seconds. That's fine. To run a weave out front or something.
Yeah,
let's move. Get the guys moving. You create exposures with the defense. If you've got guys moving across the court, they've got 10 guys just standing there for 25 seconds, and then they start what they're doing. I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not a recipe for success offensively. Yeah,
I think Carter Williams in general, Syracuse going forward, needs to shoot less. Early on in the season he was not shooting as much as he is now, but he's 4 for 17. He was 4 for 13 the other night. He's shooting 35% from the field, 25% from 3-point line. He's a much better passer, obviously, than he is a scorer at this point, and I don't think Syracuse can rely on him. I don't think they can win if he shoots 15 times a game. He's just he's hit some big shots for them, but he's not a consistent scorer. He's not a consistent shooter. I think he needs to be the facilitator, and teams are making him shoot the ball now.
Sure.
And I think it's hurt Syracuse. Obviously, the loss of Sutherland, is giving more shots to Carter Williams. Jeremy Grant's been great, I thought, and I thought that was a huge loss for Syracuse in that game, losing him. But I think Carter Williams needs to shoot less, and Trish more. Trish has been, maybe the Big East player. He's got to be, in the top 3 guys for Big East Player of the Year, I would say right now. He's been, he's had a great Big East season so far, and he's really been a great leader that we've been looking for. And
would have liked to see him with the ball at least one of those 3-4 possessions that Syracuse had down the stretch. I agree with you there.
And he is a better free throw shooter than if you go by statistics than Carter Williams. So.
Right. But the last 2 games, both Trish and Carter Williams have missed clutch free throws.
Yeah.
The free throws at the very end of the game that could have iced it, that gave the other team, Cincinnati and Villanova, a chance, to make a shot at the end.
But that's why they lost to Temple, too, free throws.
You're right, it's free throws.
They weren't for free throws.
They could be, they'd be undefeated if Michael Carter Williams was 85% free throw shooter, basically.
Which you'd expect a guy like him to be. Just, another indication that, Carter Williams' lottery pick talk is just a little premature. He could use a little more seasoning. So let's hope he seasons a little bit over the month of February. Speaking of Sutherland, they announced today that he's going to have his appeal heard before the Syracuse University. I'm not sure what board it is, if it's that student board or who it is, but the appeal to Syracuse will be heard next week after the Pitt and Notre Dame games. But there's a potential that he could be back by the following weekend. But I kind of am worried. I'm feeling like he's done.
Well, I'm encouraged by the fact it's a Syracuse board rather than the NCAA. If it was an NCAA investigation, that's a much, much bigger deal for the program and not just for James Sutherland.
Yeah, I agree. That was a relief, and hopefully that's an indication that this whole thing was a Syracuse thing. We heard that it was maybe NCAA was looking in what happened at Sutherland's high school or prep school, and was looking at other things at Syracuse. So it was a relief to see that this is a Syracuse University issue, it appears. But, we'll keep our fingers crossed, because with Coleman out now, not that, Coleman brought that much, but he was a scholarship player who was a big body and could be on the court. And
That loss only hurts if you get in foul trouble, which, obviously last game they did. But they're real thin. They can't afford they got Cooney and Kita, and we talked about it in past shows. Cooney's been a little disappointing this year. He's shooting under 30% from
the air ball he shot against Villanova was unbelievable, wide open.
It was believable.
He missed it by a foot to the left. A wide open 3 that was in a huge point in the game.
Did either of you guys not shudder when it left his fingers?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, he's banked in some threes this year. He's, when he pulls up, I don't expect it to go in. And when he's wide open, it's I'm hoping that he hits the rim and they can get the rebound maybe. But
he just hit the rim. Maybe.
He seems like
We're surprised when it goes in for him, then it goes in for anyone else.
Yeah, he always puts his hands up.
Yeah, and I don't get. I know he's not. He's a redshirt freshman. They're 3/4 of the way through the season. He's not a freshman anymore. He's been in the games. He needs to make shots. He's supposed to be a shooter. Syracuse needs him to make wide. If you're a two guard for Syracuse University, you should make wide open threes 60% of the time.
I agree.
And and you should be a 40% 3-point shooter. He's not going to play much going forward if he doesn't start making shots.
Well, especially if Sutherland comes back, but he is going to play a lot just out of necessity. Unless here's a name, guys, that you might want to refresh on. Matt Lyde Kajusti.
Yeah, we're going to
what I'm talking about? He's probably the next man up. He's probably the 8th man on this bench right now, and he's a walk-on.
Yeah, it's going to be like that 6 overtime game when the walk-ons played in that game.
Oh, yeah, what was that kid's name? Brandon Reese. Or no, it wasn't Reese. It was, oh, God, I can't think of his name. He was a guard, played at the end of that 6 overtime
Albright,
game.
But he was a few years before that.
Yeah, that's
mean,
bad.
Cooney,
I can't think of his name.
Cooney's 21 for 72 from the 3-point line. I mean,
it's scary that he shot 72 times this year because I can't remember him. He had one game I think where he made 2 in a row.
Yeah,
some of those were banked in, Verk.
Well, and Michael Carter-Williams is 21 for 75.
We're trashing on Cooney.
He's under 30% also. He's hit some big ones.
Yeah,
but he's another guy. I got a lot more confidence in Carter-Williams shooting the ball than I do Cooney, obviously. But Carter-Williams is not a knockdown 3-point shooter at this point, and his turnovers have been up a little bit lately, and I think some of his his stock has fallen a little bit with a couple of these shooting performances and some of the turnovers he's had lately.
Sutherland helped him out there. When Carter Williams drove the lane, the guy had to make a decision: mark Sutherland at the 3-point line or help stop Carter Williams' drive, and either choice was a bad choice. But now there's no one there to command that respect on the perimeter except for Brandon Trish, I suppose.
Yeah, and we haven't really talked about the whole game. Fair got 12 shots. I think he needs maybe a couple more.
Yeah.
But he really doesn't force it. 9 rebounds. Another steady game. But Rakeem Christmas played 40 minutes. He had 10 rebounds, 9 points. Not a bad game. He's come, I think it was a step forward for him compared to the last couple games where he didn't really do much of anything.
Right. Now, Brad, what do you think about Christmas? I mean, I know you think he should be more assertive, more dominant at this point in his career, given his physicality and his skill set. What do you think is kind of holding him back from having, an 18-point, 13-rebound type of game, or even seeing more minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure he's wired that way, frankly. I mean, just the energy level. I mean, you would love to see the energy level that Keita brings with the skill level that Christmas has. And, it just seems Christmas just kind of floats from time to time.
Yeah.
And, I think he's got decent low-post moves, but they don't really ever pound it down to him. And, on defense, I'm just not sure he's the smartest defensive player, particularly in the middle of that zone. I think he takes too many chances and gets himself out of position for rebounding. So I think he himself rebounding. Now, he had 10 rebounds against Villanova, so, that was great to see. I think there are some games where I think it's just difficult for him to get his head right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It seems to be a mental thing, and I agree with you on the defensive side of things. And that's what's frustrating, I think, for Coach Boeheim is all it takes is, especially for that guy playing the 5, to get out of position or miss a slide, and everything breaks right down, and it results in a foul at the hoop or an open 3.
Well, that's why he yanks Coleman so quickly every game, because it takes one mistake for Coleman, and it happens literally a minute or 2 in. And
which
when
is
that
what
happens,
he did.
Coleman's out, and we don't see him again.
And that's what he did to Christmas last year and Fab Melo the year before that.
Right.
So
fortunate, especially when Coleman, you see the issue with that strategy now. You take Coleman out and you sit him the rest of the game. We needed him in the end of that game, and his health might have been in question. So that, give him the benefit of the doubt on that, but. He hadn't played in 35 minutes, and he gets into that game, and 3-4 minutes left in the game, he's cold. And
and maybe that's why he didn't catch that pass that Carter Williams kind of dumped over his head. It would, if he caught it, he has a wide open dunk. Syracuse wins the game.
Right. That's another sort of failing of how Boeheim handles that bench a little bit. But I think by and large he's done a decent job with it this year. It's just you just wonder why he does that with Coleman. Did it with Christmas? Did it with Fab Mello? Even did it with Brandon Trish 4 years ago, not at the post, but he start every game and come out pretty quickly. Even then, as a freshman, he just does that with freshmen, and he's got some reason for it. He's never really said why.
Yeah, and again, when I get into arguments with people about that type of thing, I just say, well, he's won 905 games and you've won 0, so I'll err in judgment. The other thing about it is he's been around these college kids, for years. And I think he just kind of knows how these guys tick, like a guy like Deion Waiters. Obviously the talent was there, but Boeheim didn't start him a single game his entire career and didn't play him much as a freshman because he wasn't buying into what Boeheim wanted him to do. And I don't care if you're Michael Jordan as a freshman on Syracuse, if you're not ready to kind of, I don't know what the word is, kind of submit to Boeheim, and what he wants you to do, then you're not going to see court time. So
yeah,
and it's always been that way. Well, real quick, guys, we got 2 games coming up. Another thing Boeheim loves, the Saturday, Monday Big East slate. We got we're at Pitt, February 2nd. Huge game for Syracuse. We don't lose 2 league games in a row. We don't lose league games hardly at all the past 2 years. So this is a big game. A game that Pitt really needs. It's another early game. I think it's a noon tip this time instead of 11 a.m. But Syracuse is going to need this one. They're going to be shorthanded, and it's going to be a road Big East game. I'm worried about it, and I'm worried about coming home to face Notre Dame. This is a weekend that Syracuse could legitimately drop right out of the top 10 or reestablish themselves as a top 5 team. And I like to think that despite our depth issues and some of the things we've been talking about, that these are going to be 2 wins for Syracuse, and we're going to kind of get the ball rolling again, hopefully get Sutherland back, and get something going with the 7 guys that we got left for the stretch run.
Yeah, obviously
it does feel when we doubt this team, when we're down on this team, they seem to raise their performance level. We were questioning how ready they were for that Louisville game, and then they rose up, and the year before that when they lost to Notre Dame, and then they come back to Cincinnati, and they stepped up their game and won that one on the road, and so right when you're sort of at your depth of confidence with these guys in the last few years, they always seem to rise up, and then they stub their toe when you least expect it, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah, I see Pitt, being a low-scoring game. They're coming off a 64-60 loss to Louisville, who was, fighting for their life, basically, looking at losing 4 in a row possibly in the Big East. So, they went to Louisville and, took on everything Louisville had to offer. And, they were down early in that game, but they kept it close, and, they had a shot at the end there, really. And, that's, anytime you play at Pitt, Pitt seems to dissect that zone pretty well.
Yeah.
They've had some big guys in the
past.
past.
Them and Villanova are similar. Jay Wright and Jamie Dixon both seem to have good strategies against Boeheim's teams.
I think Dixon has a winning record against Boeheim in general. And, Pitt seems to play well against Syracuse. So, coming off a down year last year for Pitt, but they seem to be, back in the thick of things here in the Big East. They're sitting right there in the middle at 5-4. So it's a big game for Pitt and Syracuse. I think every game here on out is pretty big. And, a Notre Dame team that's very capable. They got a very good point guard. He's averaging, 5-6 assists a game. A good big guy in Jack Cooley who averages 11 rebounds and, scores the ball pretty good for them inside also.
A big challenge for Christmas and Keita on
another
Monday
team
night.
who really seems to play well against Syracuse also. Notre Dame's had some good outside shooting nights against them. But
everybody gets up for him because we got a target on our back. When you're a top 5 team, that's who everybody's gunning for. That's why they have so many whiteouts. Everywhere we go.
Finally worked for somebody.
Yeah, that's right. Villanova with a whiteout. Good for them. That must have been the whiteout, right?
It had to have been.
Couldn't have been Bell, having a career day. Well, real quick, guys, I just wanted to mention a quick newsworthy item. St. John's and Syracuse have agreed to play each other home and home the next 2 seasons at the Madison Square Garden next year and then the Dome. So we're going to the ACC, but at least one of these rivalries is going to remain intact, and will hopefully be more announcements like this, in the future.
Yeah, I know they said they wanted to keep the Georgetown rivalry going, so I'll be interested to see if they're able to do that. Syracuse is going to have a pretty good non-conference schedule if they are able to do that, which will be nice. And
well, you know why they did the home and home with St. John's is because they don't have to leave New York State.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, they are New York's team. They flashed all over Manhattan. I mean, you understand they want to play in the Garden. That's
right.
important to them to have to give up that for the tournament. You'd hate to give it up completely, so they get to play in the Garden every year, which is a big recruiting pitch, I'm sure, for a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how much that's going to hurt Syracuse and Pittsburgh when we go to the ACC. That is a huge recruiting tool, and going down to Greensboro for the ACC tournament isn't a big draw for much of these, Northeast recruits at all, or national recruits. Tell them you're going to go to Madison Square Garden once a year playing the Big East tournament. Well, that's a different story. That's I'm interested if I'm going to recruit there.
It's funny. I've seen a lot of commercials for the Big East tournament. I've seen on MSG and other at halftime of Big East games or whatever, where they show these kids that are watching the Big East tournament, and the kids dreaming of playing in the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden. And do you think you could ever market the ACC tournament that way?
Not unless Swafford moves it up to Madison Square Garden like he should. If they want to be the Atlantic Coast Conference, then let's put it on the biggest city in the Atlantic Coast. I think it's a no-brainer, but, we all know that's not going to happen anytime soon. So, welcome to life in the ACC. But one of our favorite segments coming up after this short break, Connor's Corner Trivia. Who knows what Brad's got in store for us, but it always seems to be interesting as we try to come up with some of the answers to the great trivia he provides. And before we cut to break real quick, I just want to mention Justin Thomas. That's the point guard's walk-on point guard who played in that 6 overtime game against UConn. And it played pretty well, too. So, so hang tight. We'll be right back in about 90 seconds. Attention, Finger Lakes residents. Have you been injured and deserve compensation? Call Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys. Your case deserves personal attention. At Madej, Maris, and Ricky, they know you by name, not just a number on a folder. Call the Finger Lakes Personal Injury Hotline at 315-568-0911. That's 315-568-0911. Madej, Maris, and Ricky, your hometown personal injury attorneys.
The Newark Pilots. See tomorrow's Major League stars today. For more information, go to NewarkPilots.com.
The most valuable things are always passed down from generation to generation. It's true for your family, and it's true for our bank. For more than 140 years at Generations Bank, we've greeted you by name, planned with you for the future, and stood by you when you needed a hand. It's what we do, and what we'll continue to do for generations into the future. We might look different now, but in the important ways, we're exactly like we've always been. Stop in your local branch or go to mygenbank.com.
And welcome back to the Upstate Hoops podcast here in the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And it's my favorite time of the show, Brad. What do you got for us this week in terms of trivia?
Well, we've talked a little bit over the last couple of weeks and months about the prospects of Michael Carter-Williams being a lottery pick and a first-round pick and all these different possibilities that are out there for him. And we obviously spent a lot of time last year debating the prospects of guys like Waiters and Joseph, and it got me wondering how many first-round draft picks that Syracuse has had in the Boeheim era. So why don't you guys see if you can tell me how many first-round picks Syracuse has had in the NBA draft in the Boeheim era.
You want to start from the top down, or you want to start from?
Give me a number first. We'll see how close you are, and then I'll tell you what the number is, and then we can see if we can, how many you guys can guess.
All right, off the top of my head, I'm going to quickly, just kind of going through the decades, say first round draft choices, huh?
Yes.
We had 2 last year. I'm going to say 14.
I'll say.
Actually, I'm going to say 11. I'm going to say 11.
Oh boy, I'm going to say 15.
No, sir. There were 18 in the Boeheim era and 1 preceding the Boeheim era. So 19 total in the history of the program.
Dave Bing being the one?
Under Dave Bing being the one.
Okay, well.
So with that said, 19 total. How many of those can you guess?
Well,
and see how close you are. Start top 5 or maybe even number 1.
Carmelo.
Carmelo, go. Do you remember?
Carmelo was 3.
That's correct.
Coleman.
Yeah. Owens.
And Coleman went.
1, right?
Number 1, New Jersey Nets.
That's correct. He went first.
Billy Owens went number 7 to Golden State.
No, better than that even.
4?
Third.
Oh, wow.
Which is hard to believe given the career that he ended up having, that he was drafted that high.
And a prototypical,
okay career,
prototypical NBA player. He's 6'9" ball handler, So yeah, that is a little surprising that he didn't have a better career in the NBA, but that's for another podcast, I suppose.
He played about 10 years, averaged 12 points a game in the NBA.
Yeah, I drafted him on my fantasy NBA teams a couple
pick.
times back in the day. So that's 3.
That's 3.
You got the Pearl. That would be number 4. You got
where Pearl went.
Pearl went number 11.
I'm not sure.
11 or 12 to the Nets. Signed a
13.
13. Signed a contract with Avia. And consequently bankrupted the company. Okay, so that's 4.
Well, and you guys already said Bing.
Well, I thought we were doing Boeheim era, looking for the 18.
Well, we can throw Bing out there as one of the 19, 18 out of the Boeheim era.
Sure, fair enough.
When Dave Bing went.
Where Bing go? I would guess 1, but I can't. No, he didn't. He wasn't 1. I have no idea, but he wasn't 1 because Coleman was the only number 1.
Coleman was the only number 1. Dave Bing went 2nd.
Okay. Good pick.
Yeah, it worked out okay for him, didn't it?
Well, let's go with some more obvious ones. First of all, Fab Melo and Chris Joseph. Right? Or was Joseph early second round?
Joseph.
Chris Joseph.
Joseph went the second, Brad?
He did.
Yeah. So just Fab.
Melo was like 28th to the Celtics or something like that, right?
He was 22nd. 22nd to the Celtics.
All right. John Wallace, 18 to the Knicks.
Correct.
Which was surprising that he fell.
That was very surprising coming off the season he had. The NBA guys must have known what they were doing because, then once he got to the league, he never really played much for the Knicks, really.
Yeah, nice little career, though. Played for Miami. Played for a few teams. Phoenix.
Yeah.
Toronto.
7-8 points a game over his career.
How many?
He played 7 years, averaged about 7.5 a game.
Yeah.
Ronnie Cycli.
Ronnie Cycli is correct.
To the Miami Heat, number 6.
He went 9th.
Okay.
Akeem Warwick.
Yeah.
Akeem Warwick is correct.
Oh, boy. Lawrence Moten.
Warwick went 19th to the Grizzlies. Lawrence Moten did not go in the first round.
Wow, surprising. Can you believe that? The Big East all-time leading scorer.
He went the second round to the Grizzlies.
Bad pick. He didn't stick.
I can tell you, Moten in the NBA played 3 seasons, averaged 6 a game. He just didn't have the body for it.
Yeah, not real quick, and it really wasn't a great athlete.
Yeah.
I got one for you here. Danny Shays.
Good one.
Utah Jazz. Probably late first round.
Mid the first round, 13th, but you're correct on Utah.
Nice. Okay, good bloodlines. NBA bloodlines.
Yeah.
Dealt with his dad, Dolph.
Yeah.
Dolph was not a first-round draft pick.
I got another first-rounder for you. Damone Brown.
No.
He was second round?
Damone Brown was
76ers.
Second-round pick. by the Sixers.
He got drafted by the New York State Penitentiary early, for his or wherever he was prosecuted for that drug dealings.
He'll be a Hall of Famer in Attica.
That's right.
How about Sherman Douglas?
Sherman Douglas did not go in the first round.
Really?
But he probably had one of the best NBA careers out of any of these guys we talked about. Played for close to 20 years. Or maybe that's a little exaggeration, but did he play 15 years in the league?
He played 12 years, averaged 11 a game.
Yeah.
Jason Hart was a second rounder too, wasn't he?
Of any Syracuse player, which shouldn't surprise you.
What about Jason Hart?
4,500 assists in the NBA.
Yeah, wow. Incredible.
Yeah. But he went 28, so he went, in 89 when he went, there were probably, 26, 27 teams.
Right.
May have been the first or second pick in the second round.
What about Jason Hart, Brad? He was a second-round pick?
Exactly. He was a second rounder.
Yeah, that's what Vic thought. Leo Routins, Atlanta Hawks.
Routins is correct.
76ers or Hawks?
Sixers, I believe. Sixers, 17th.
17th, I was going to say that. Nice. Louis Orr?
I remember right after he got drafted, I was in the Syracuse airport, and I saw him come through, and it's like, a little 10-year-old kid. It was like seeing Wilt Chamberlain in person.
He came to Seneca Falls and did a clinic for us at Minders Academy. Remember?
Andre Hawkins was there.
Yeah, he said, Leo Routins said, look, all your friends are going to go out and go to parties and stuff. You should be in the gym. But none of us listened.
Obviously took that to heart, didn't we?
Yeah. Let's see here. Louis Orr.
Louis Orr was not a first-round pick.
Played for a while with the Knicks, though. Surprised.
Drafted by the Pacers, second round, 28th pick. So, again, he was probably one of the early second round.
Those guys got screwed by being pre-expansion. Of course, they were also pre-big money.
True. They got screwed more by that.
Yeah, Chris Joseph probably made a lot more in his first year than even somebody like, Danny Shays, or even maybe Ronnie Cycli.
And Chris Joseph's 8 games before he got cut.
That's right. Fab's still hanging on though in the D League for Boston.
But Fab hasn't played a game yet. He's been on the roster for the last 10 games or so, but he still hasn't even taken his warm ups off yet.
So how many do we got? Where are we at?
Well, so you said last year, you said Melo and you said Chris Joseph.
Oh no, Joseph was second rounder.
Right.
Waiters.
Yeah, Deion Waiters. I'm sorry. Yeah, duh.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if I talked over you when you said that. So
no,
Deion
good
Waiters
call.
obviously was on this list.
Waiters went fourth.
Fourth, right. So you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of the 19. So you're missing 7.
Wow, that's a lot. I think we got to...
Oh, Johnny Flynn.
Johnny Flynn's correct.
Dante Green.
Dante Green. Flynn went to...
sixth to Minnesota.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct.
Wes Johnson's another one.
Bad pick, wasn't it?
Wes Johnson, Brad, mark him down.
Wes Johnson.
Fourth.
Went where?
Fourth,
correct. Another questionable pick, given what he's done.
Yeah, kind of two surprises there. I thought they both would be good NBA players, and
it's hard, man.
They both went to the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves were just the absolute dregs of the NBA, and
they'll never draft a Syracuse player again.
Well, some guys just end up in bad situations, and it just costs them. They get a reputation in the league, and nobody wants to take a chance on them anymore, and just guys get buried on the bench.
Right. So that leaves us 5 more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more.
What about our buddy Preston Shumpert?
No.
Has a little shot in the dark there. What about LaRon Ellis?
Preston Shumpert was not even drafted.
Really?
He never even...
and neither was Deshaun Williams.
In the league.
What about LaRon Ellis?
LaRon Ellis is a very good guess. He went 20...
Celtics?
To the Clippers. 22nd.
Clippers.
Conrad
McRae?
That's a good guess, but no. Conrad McRae went second round, 38th.
Well, let's go with another center then. Let's go with Etan Thomas.
That's a good one. 12th, Etan Thomas went.
That's surprising he went so high.
And he had a solid career.
Yeah,
in poetry.
Him. He was terrible at Syracuse, I thought, pretty much.
Well, yeah.
He was a 12th pick by the Mavericks, and then he went to the league, and He played 9 seasons, averaged 6 a game. Not bad.
Did Roosevelt Bowie get drafted? I mean, I know Roosevelt Bowie had a great career overseas, but did he initially get drafted out of college? Is he one of these?
Yeah, he got drafted second round by the Mavericks.
Second round, though. Okay, so he's not one.
How about Dave Johnson?
That's a great guess. Dave Johnson went 26th.
Wow.
First round to the Trailblazers.
Another bad pick.
How about Wendell Alexis?
Johnson didn't have a very stellar career. He played 2 seasons, averaged 3 a game.
I don't think it was Alexis was, and I don't think Sean Cairns was either.
Sean Cairns he got drafted 7th round when they had the draft. 7th round, 155th pick, Sean Cairns.
How about Tony Red Bruin?
Tony Red Bruin, he was a 7th round pick, 162nd player picked. Man, if they had that kind of draft, you could have gotten drafted first.
I think I could have. Like the 30th round, maybe.
Oh man, I'm starting.
Four you guys are missing.
I'm starting to draw a little blank.
I have to prod you guys for these same 2 guys in previous trivia questions.
Oh, so we're gonna kick ourselves once you tell us the answer. We need 3 more or 4 more?
2 more.
Only 2 more.
Yeah.
Well, he gave us a hint, Burke.
Oh, let's see here.
2008 draft.
2008?
Yep, first round, 28th pick by the Grizzlies.
2008, they won it.
First rounder to the Grizzlies. You did get Dante Green, didn't you?
That's it. Did you say him?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear you say that. Yeah, Dante Green.
Okay, so we got 1 more left. And then he immediately got traded to Sacramento, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, so we got 1 more first-round NBAer, and we will have named all 19.
Half of our trivia questions, and you guys never get him. He was the last guy to wear 44. He played in Section 5. Or not the last guy to wear 44, but he was one of the Boeheim-era guys to wear 44. Played in Section 5.
I don't remember his name.
28 game.
We're number 4.
78. 19th pick to the Suns.
Oh, 78, Marty Burns.
Very good.
Marty Burns was a first-round pick, huh?
For some reason.
It's because he was a great player. He's just a little bit before our time.
Yeah, he was at the very, very beginnings of the Boeheim era. He played, I think, 2 seasons for Roy Danforth and 2 for Boeheim.
Well, Brad, you've done it again. Great question, I'm glad we were able to come up with all those names.
Couple of follow-up facts for you guys. 59 Syracuse players have been drafted in the NBA. 37 players have been drafted in the Boeheim era. So, to counter the take of Doug Gottlieb, is a good coach turn guys into great pro players. Well, I don't know if 37 guys necessarily makes that claim, but he seems to be able to make guys better when they come through the program and get them into the NBA.
Get them there, yeah.
And then 42 Syracuse players have actually played in the NBA, 30 of which played for Boeheim.
It's a pretty good number. I mean, a lot of people think, when you focus on one program and you see a lot of those guys that get drafted and don't make it, you start to think, geez, these guys aren't well prepared for the NBA. But I think you go to any program, and more than not, don't make it. They just don't. It's a competitive league. There's a lot of international players. And then nowadays there's players playing longer. Like Kobe's over there getting stem cell treatments in Germany. You got guys playing up to 40 and still producing, so there's less slots for players to catch on. Yeah. So you really have to be...
Really to stash guys, so they don't have to take a chance on guys as much as they might have done in the past.
Yep, that's right. Good trivia. Good trivia. So, moving on, guys, real quick. Any games stick out to you this week, watching across the country that you watched that you might want to comment on? Brad?
The one I saw bits of last night, Florida just absolutely taking South Carolina behind the woodshed. That was just a awful beatdown.
Yeah, Florida's good. Florida's good.
I thought Kentucky beating Ole Miss. Kentucky seems to be coming along finally. They really were struggling there for a little bit, and they still got to play Florida twice, so we'll see how that goes. But, maybe Kentucky's finally getting it together a little bit with all the talent they have. And then, Maryland's struggling. Some of these Duke struggled to Wake the other night. Just tough to figure out. LSU beats Missouri.
Villanova came back after 2 great wins and loses to Notre Dame.
Yeah. St. John's beats DePaul in overtime for their 5th straight Big East win.
Yeah.
But they got good talent. I mean, they're young. They took them time to get to come together. But, I mean, Lavin's he's got the magic touch with a lot of these young guys. I think he does a real nice job with these guys.
Sampson for St. John's.
How long can he keep them?
Sampson for St. John's is phenomenal.
I like Lavin, and I like that St. John's team. They play hard. They're fun to watch. They got a great shot blocker, and they can really score the ball. They're obviously a team on the rise right now in the Big East. Brad, let me ask you, you think Villanova's in the tournament right now?
I think they need 2 or 3 more good wins. I think that loss to Columbia is really, really sticking in their side. I think if they can win,
what are they, 4-4 in the Big East? I think
against the top 3 or 4 of the Big East, and maybe win a game in the tournament, maybe.
Well, I don't think you can take a loss to Columbia back in November, as embarrassing as it is, and discount a team that has a couple top 5 wins. If they continue, if Villanova can finish at over 500 in the league, I think
they've got to continue it. They can't lose to Notre Dame and continue on that path. They've got to be the team that beat Syracuse and Louisville.
Right. Well, how about Miami? Looks for real. I mean, they pounded Florida State. I mean, that wasn't a fluke against Duke, and they're in full control of the ACC.
This is a crazy stat I heard today, guys, that Miami is the first team that's not Duke or North Carolina to start an ACC season 7-0 since 1981.
That's ridiculous.
Ralph Sampson's UVA team. So other than Duke or Carolina, nobody's been 7-0 in that league since in the last 32 years.
Well, luckily for the ACC, that's about to change once we get in there.
Villanova also lost to LaSalle. Just a little add-on there.
Yeah. Who also? LaSalle got a nice win this week against
beat
Butler.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy world of college basketball that included a Wisconsin team beat Minnesota 45-44. Iowa State beat Kansas State. Georgetown beat Louisville. NC State beats UNC, then comes back and loses to Virginia, who Virginia's record actually is they're at 15-5, hanging, probably on the good side of the bubble.
5-2 in the ACC. They got some really bad losses too. They lost to a 2-15 Old Dominion team,
right?
But they're playing good. I played against Virginia when I was in college. I kind of root for them a little bit, but the ACC's. I can't tell if the top teams aren't that good or the bottom teams might be better than we thought. So.
Yeah, it's a good assessment for sure.
Wake beat NC State, I believe, right?
Yeah, a lot of that doesn't seem to make
North
sense.
Carolina, they had them destroyed. Carolina crept back into it, but that was a real bad game for Carolina.
San Diego State beat New Mexico 55-34. Mention that, of course, because that's going to improve Syracuse's strength of schedule just a little bit as San Diego State beats the leader in the Mountain West after losing them the first time around. New Mexico also beat Cincinnati, as you'll remember, so that was a pretty solid 21-point win, over New Mexico, ranked 15th at the time. That was back on Saturday.
35. That's doing something.
Yeah. Ohio State.
Rob Murphy's Eastern Michigan team beat Northern Illinois, held them to 25 points on Saturday.
Wow.
4 points at halftime.
That's
the zone working some magic.
I guess.
DeShante Riley in the center of that zone holding serve.
They were 1 for 30, I think, from the field in the first half.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Was that Northern Illinois or was that
Northern Illinois? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Northern Illinois because there was also another game involving. Maybe that was the one I saw. Regardless, what do you tell your team at halftime? When you score 4 points and a half.
Make some shots.
It's not Iowa.
Illinois made their first basket of the half and then followed it with 29 straight misses. They shot 3% in the first half.
Jeez. Here's another weird thing. You watched I think it was last night, Florida State loses to Maryland, and Florida State is just awful. They've been awful. Maryland's been...
Florida State beat Maryland,
yeah,
right?
the Florida State beat Maryland. it was a home game for Florida State, but still, Florida State's been pretty bad this year. Just coming off getting pounded by Miami, and then Maryland comes in, who Maryland has a decent season going. They haven't played much of anybody yet, and they lose to Florida State. Bad loss. Georgetown picked up a couple wins this week. They're sitting at 15-4 right now. A lot of it's amazing to me how quickly some of these teams get dropped out of the rankings when they lose a game or two. A team like Georgetown, but now they're at 15-4 with wins over Louisville, a win over Louisville. They got kind of screwed a little bit early in the season when that game against Florida got canceled, I think.
Yeah.
But
now they're flying under the radar a little bit. That's a pretty dangerous team.
And, of course, going to be really something when they come to the Dome on February 23rd. Well, guys, real quick before we get out of here, let's take a look at our top 5 power rankings for the week. I guess I'll go first. I'll run through it really quick. I got Florida at 5. I got Syracuse at 4, even though despite their depth issues, they're a 2-loss team. And, while the rest of the pollsters seem to have Syracuse at the bottom of the 2-loss teams, that's just, we're getting used to that type of thing. But I got them at number 4. I think any team they play it's going to be tough for them to beat, even with only 7 deep right now. Keep our fingers crossed that Sutherland comes back, but I still like the Cuse. I got them at 4. I got Indiana at 3. I got Michigan at 2, and I got Kansas at 1. And Michigan's got a really tough stretch coming up here over the next week or two. So it'll be interesting to see, if they perform well over their next couple of games. I'm finally going to have to give them the respect that I think everybody else is and move them up to 1. But Kansas looks great. So I don't know. How about you guys?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I've got number 5. I've got Gonzaga. I think they've got a real nice resume right now. They've just lost 2 games. One was that game, that crazy one against Butler. Another one, they lost to Illinois when Brandon Paul went off for 35 or something. So I think they're as good as anybody out there. They just fly under the radar again because they're out in that West Coast League. But got them at 5. Indiana 4. It's funny because I was comparing Gonzaga and Indiana, and their resumes are pretty close. Because they both lost to Butler and then both lost one at home against a Big Ten team. Otherwise, they're about the same.
Yeah, Gonzaga's been very impressive, and I'm glad to see that you considered them for your top 5.
Yeah, so 5 is the best I can do with them right now. But yeah, that's the problem now is they don't have too many chances to get too many good wins here on out. Because I think mostly league contests from this point forward. But Indiana 4, I've got Michigan 3, and it's not because they didn't do anything to deserve the higher ranking. I just like the 2 and 1 better. 2, I've got Florida. Like I said, I watched parts of that game last night against South Carolina. I was just shocked at how efficient they were, how strong they were defensively. They just get after it, and they've got some talent. Inside-out game is fantastic with them. And then number 1, Kansas, and I've been high on Kansas all season, as you guys know. So, to me, Kansas and Florida are a strong 1-2, despite the fact that they both have 2 losses and Michigan has only 1. I think, or Kansas has 1 loss, but I think Florida at 2 losses is stronger from what I've seen on the eye test than Michigan is with 1 loss. So that's my 5.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Brad, you were talking about that Illinois win over Gonzaga, and that was kind of the highlight of their season as they now sit
it's downhill from there for Illinois.
2-6 in the Big Ten right now. But I went with Syracuse at 5. I think they're holding on right now. This big weekend obviously coming up, down a couple players for the weekend, and they got to go to Pitt and then come back and play Monday night against Notre Dame. I think it's a huge weekend for them, and as we said before, they've rallied in the past when we thought they were down a little bit. So I'd like to hopefully they can do that again. I got Indiana at number 4. They're good. They can score the ball. Defensively, I don't know where they're at right now. They're kind of you never know what to expect from them sometimes. I think I got Florida at number 3. I think they're the best 2-loss team in the country right now. Maybe the best team overall in the country, but they do have 2 losses, so I didn't move them up any higher than 3. I got Kansas at 2. We've talked about them. They're on a 18-19 game win streak right now. Very talented throughout. McLemore's been a great surprise for them. Maybe the number one pick in the draft as a redshirt freshman. And then I got Michigan number 1. I just think they got the best backcourt in the country. They got depth in the backcourt. Their big guys are capable, but I think with that backcourt with the 4 guards that they do have, they can really score the ball. And Beeline's always been an offensive genius, and he's not really had to do a whole lot this year. He kind of just lets them play a little bit, and I got Michigan number 1.
All right, guys. Well, as we mentioned several times, the week ahead features 2 games for the Cuse, Saturday against Pitt, and then Monday night on Big Monday, the first real Big Monday. I don't count that Cincinnati Martin Luther King Day 3:30 tip as a Big Monday game in the Dome against the Irish. So it's going to be it's a week of reckoning, I think. We're going to learn a lot about these guys, these 7 guys, and perhaps Matt Loud Kajusti over the weekend. But I should mention a quick programming note. Our sister podcast, the Upstate Hoops podcast, earlier tonight we talked with Don Oakleaf. If you don't know who that is, Syracuse fans, I'm not too surprised, but he was the starting center on the Lions high school teams that featured Jim Boeheim. So he's a teammate of Jim Boeheim, a childhood friend of Jim Boeheim, and we spoke with him for about 20 minutes to kick off that podcast. So check that out if you're in for an interesting conversation from a guy who played right alongside Jim Boeheim. But that's it for us this week. Thanks again for joining us on the Upstate Orange podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. You can find us on Facebook by searching Upstate Hoops and on Twitter at HoopsPod. For my co-hosts, Brad Connor and Matt Verkey, our producer, Jeremy Hunt, I'm Jim Sinacropi. We'll see you back here next week.
See you.